Okay, gang, welcome. So, episode 34. Let's go back to episode 33 for a second. What was I doing? I was like leaned back in my chair. I looked like I weighed 300 pounds. And as I said in my comments, that's after my having lost 14 pounds. So, you will never see me leaning back in my chair again. So, St. Thomas Aquinas once said that vanity was the number one deadly sin. So I confess a little bit of vanity. Oh my God, I looked at those pictures, the video. Camera angle was not real good, but it was my fault. I was leaned back. Won't happen again. Okay, so we're moving on. And this is kind of like, part 3. If you're sharp enough, you'll see that I've got like a theme here when I'm talking about writing in these 3 or 4 episodes. This is going to be part 3 of what is actually creating a presentation package. And that's how you sell a television series. And the first part of that presentation package that we talked about in episode 33 was the proposal. So got to find something that's really, really fascinating. Joe Schmo's Brick Company, the world's greatest brick manufacturer. And you're going to create a proposal. And I walked you through everything you needed. So after you've got that done, what you need next is a series Bible. This beast is a series Bible that I've written, and this one happens to be 146 pages, okay? I'm a madman. I've written series Bibles that were 40, maybe 50 pages, but usually my Bibles come in at around 80 or 90, or sometimes, often, more pages than that. Page count really doesn't matter to the broadcast executives. They're interested in the content, what's in those pages. And I can't tell you what to write, okay? If you're lucky enough to be excited about Joe Schmo's Brick Manufacturing Company, hey man, you found the important thing, what to write about. What I can, however, tell you is how to write it. There's a difference between the two. A series Bible, this beast, has to be a part of any presentation package to broadcasters. If you don't have it, they're not going to be interested in your television series, because the series Bible creates the world in which the series exists. Excuse me. Peanut butter and celery snack about 20 minutes ago. Anyway, it creates the entire world that the series is going to take place in. It's important for 2 reasons. It's important as a blueprint to writers who will eventually come on board and are going to be writing for this series. This is going to show them everything about how that series works. But equally important, maybe even more important, is that it creates a selling tool for the broadcaster. They will understand how that series works and hopefully be very, very excited about it. So the first element in a series Bible, very important, is backstory, okay? You're going to step back a little bit from the present world in which the series exists, and you're going to tell its origin. You're going to tell it a little bit about its history, its overview. How did Joe Schmo's Brick Company come to be? Well, in the 1800s, Joe Schmo was a immigrant from Ireland and landed in New York, and there was mud all over the place and straw for horses all over the place, and he got this bright idea to use those natural resources to make something that he could sell, to make bricks. That's how he got started. He had his son work with him, he had all of his family work with him, he had his wife, cooking meals for all the workers, and that's how he built up one of the largest brick manufacturing companies in America. That's your backstory. You better make that backstory sound exciting, because if it isn't exciting to you, not going to be exciting to the broadcast executive. So you have to be head over heels in love with the idea of bricks. You need to do your research about bricks, find out about the history of bricks going back to Egypt. You got to know so much more than will end up in your series Bible. But it's the foundation. And the backstory is how you start. Now, you've got that backstory. That's your underground foundation that you've dug down to. Now you're going to start building your building. And the first thing you're going to do is a section about concept. And what I'm telling you about this series Bible, this is the way that I do it. I've always done it this way. And I've sold more television series than I can count over my more than 40 years in the industry based on a series Bible, which I learned, by the way, from Andy Hayward, who owned DIC at the time and worked at Hanna-Barbera. He's a dear friend and business associate of mine. And he taught me how to write a series Bible. Andy really taught me step by step how to write it. John was always the creative guy, but Andy was the businessman, and he showed me how to write this invaluable tool. And that's why I'm trying to explain this to you. This is valuable information. The concept, okay, what is the concept of your series? The concept, you have to come with it, up with it. I can't tell you what to write. I mean, I can tell you if I was writing it, it would be that there was a competing company that found out a way to create a chemical that would destroy the straw that Joe Schmo was using in making his bricks, so he could wipe out his competitor, and there would be a battle between the two sides. But that's just me. You've got to come up with your own concept for your show. And again, it's got to be something you're passionate about, that you're head over heels in love with this concept. I always go back to Rocky. Concept for Rocky was Cinderella, okay? A club fighter, who was down on his luck, not the greatest guy in the world, and all of a sudden he gets a Cinderella chance to go up against the heavyweight champion of the world, Apollo Creed. Boy, there's a concept, okay? You should be able to pitch your concept in one sentence. You have to have what's called an elevator pitch. And the time it takes that elevator to rise, you got to be able to pitch the concept. And again, I go back to Jaws quite a bit. Spielberg, when he pitched Jaws, one sentence pitch. It's about a shark that attacks a seaport village over and over and over again. Bang, zoom, green light, into production, okay? So you got to do all those things. It's got to be one sentence, but it's also got to be a really fulsome concept, okay? So now you've got your foundation dug. You've got the first floor being built, and you have the concept. You need to populate your world. And that means you need to populate it with fascinating characters, okay? And again, I can't tell you what to write. I can tell you how to write it. I can tell you that it better be somebody Each one of those characters has to be fascinating. I've used this example before. I read it 45 years ago as a short story, and the writer said that this woman was 85 years old and she had slept naked all her life and no one ever knew it. Wow, what a character, okay? So it's in the details. That's what's very important. And you have to write a page or two on each one of your characters, always thinking about how they're going to interact, sometimes talking about how they're going to interact, and getting all of that down. Now, you've got your foundation, you got the first floor with your concept, you've got characters that are living in the building, and you have to have the places where the action in your series takes place, and that is the location section of your series Bible. And that's really the easiest section to write, because you can, whether you do it in Dodge City, okay, in 1852, or whether you're doing it in Manhattan in 2425, or on the Starship Enterprise, wherever you are, you're going to come up with the locations. That's not that hard to do that. So I'm not going to dwell on that. And after you've had all of this, now your series is coming together. Now comes the most important section of all, the format section, okay? You're going to show how an episode works. And in everything you're doing in this format section, you're doing it for the broadcaster. You're doing it for the writers that are going to come on. How does a typical episode work? I'll go to the unscripted series Cops, okay? Watch Cops on television. How many 100 episodes have they had? Every episode opens the same. It's a long shot of Indianapolis. The guy is saying, my Uncle Jim worked as a police officer. Go inside the car. He says, I've wanted to be a police officer all my life. Now I'm working with Brian. Boom, all of a sudden the call comes through. They're on the way, okay? They stop, pit the car that's being stolen, or they stop the drug dealer, whatever they do. They get the guy into handcuffs, put him into the car, tell him, I hope for the best for you. And that's it. That's the format, okay? You need to do the same thing in your series. You need to have a duplicable format so that the broadcaster knows you can do episode after episode after episode. And then the rest, you know, it really kind of takes care of itself. Once you've got the format and you've got the characters and you've got the locations, you've got your world built. Now you want to have a short section of springboards. And those are going to be 1 or 2 paragraphs at the most. Don't make the mistake of writing a 3-page springboard. Springboards are nothing more than a springboard, okay? Rocky Balboa, a street fighter in clubs gets a shot at the crown. Okay, that's a story springboard. Okay, for a feature film. So write those story springboards, 6 of them, put them on that page, and then you go to your final section, the conclusion. Boy, you better go back and you better read your backstory. You better go back and read your concept and think about all that, because you have to narrow all of that down to a page or 2, and it's gotta be killer. You have to end so strong on that concept that when you're finished, that broadcaster is gonna say, this is a gotta have it series, okay? So you've got your proposal about Joe Schmo's Brick Company. You've got your series Bible. Creates the world, creates the characters, creates the drama. Oh my God, he's trying to destroy all of my straw. You got all of that, okay? You're done with that. Your presentation package is almost there. Now, the question is, what do you do from there? And this is why when you're writing that all-important format section, when you're describing how a typical episode works, this is Jack's tip jar. No one else is going to tell you this. when you go through it step by step, how that episode works, you have to put in bold, for example, in Act 1, for the A story, the characters meet on the dirt road and there's a confrontation between them. And then when you go to the next scene in which you say the drama continues, but they withdraw and go back to their house or to their apartment or their factory, now again, you have to put in bold, for example, in our pilot episode script, Joe Schmo goes back to his office. It's midnight. He walks inside and he sees the whole office has been turned upside down. You do that throughout your format section, talking about how the scenes are going to work and using a bold, dark example of how the scene works. When you do it that way, clever you, clever me, what you've done is you've outlined what your pilot episode is going to be, which saves you a lot of trouble when you move to writing your pilot episode, which we will talk about in the next installment. Subscribe, like me, okay? I like you. See you guys later.